Good evening, this is Chamath Fernando bringing you the news roundup.
The top story on Gold FM.
The IMF Executive Board approval on the 5th and 6th reviews remains contingent on the restoration of cost recovery pricing for electricity and fuel while protecting the vulnerable alongside the completion of a financing assurances review. This was said by the IMF mission on Sri Lanka as they reached a staff-level agreement on the said reviews under the Extended Fund Facility Program with the Sri Lankan authorities today. Approval from the IMF Executive Board will grant Sri Lanka access to approximately $700 million in fresh financing. This brings total disbursements under the $3 billion arrangement to roughly $2.4 billion. In Colombo this afternoon, the IMF Senior Mission Chief Evan Papageorgiou briefed the media on several crucial elements as far as the EFF program and the Sri Lankan economy is concerned. He offered the IMF's observations on the recent 11% electricity tariff hike implemented by the Public Utilities Commission.
When we read the announcement, we understand that PUCSL considered part of the losses the CEB had in the first quarter. As you will recall, also there was no announcement for the first quarter because of some technical difficulties and some other issues. And so CEB was already operating at the old tariff without adjusting its tariff for Q1. And so that resulted in some losses. But because the CEB submission for the Q2 tariff was done well before the conflict in the Middle East and the escalation of those conditions, and because the oil prices assumptions were not accurately reflected, there is a need to make a new submission because this submission did not take into consideration the new assumptions. In addition, the dispatch, the policy mix, the fuel mix that CEB assumes for generating electricity has to be updated, and that's also another very, very important component to this. So when we see the new announcement, whenever that comes out, we will take all this into consideration to evaluate how will the electricity cost recovery is satisfied.
Further, the rise in CEB's production costs due to substandard coal imports was also addressed by the IMF's Senior Mission Chief.
But part of the reason why CEB's production cost had gone higher was because of the quality of coal procured and the reduced ability to produce efficient production of electricity. We did not go into any particular detail, partly because we tend to look at the economic issues and we understand that we will have trust in the government and talking with CEB or the NSO rather and subsequent companies to deal with these issues when it comes to, for example, to supplier issues. But I will say, and a very important issue here, the issue of ensuring that fuel supply agreements are in place. And so all the generation companies and the ensuing companies from the CEB unbundling are operating on such well-defined manner so that when an issue arises with, in this case, coal and some other issues with other inputs, they are well-defined and there is a good recourse for them to deal with similar issues in the future.
Losses incurred from the importation of substandard coal will be recovered through the supplier through legal action rather than being passed on to the public or included in electricity tariff revisions. This was said by Energy Minister Kumara Jayakodi in Parliament today. He provided this response while answering a question raised by opposition leader Sajith Premadasa. Meanwhile, former Minister Professor G.L. Pieris said that the Energy Minister must resign from his position over the serious allegations levelled against him. He said that the claims made by the government defending him are baseless. No decision exists to suspend the 48-hour strike started in hospitals island-wide. This was said by the Government Medical Officers Association. The trade union action is expected to continue until 8 a.m. the day after tomorrow. The GMOL launched the strike this morning, claiming the Ministry of Health violated agreed upon conditions regarding the granting of internship appointments. Patients who arrived for treatment at participating hospitals faced severe difficulties due to the industrial action. A resolution to extend the state of emergency under the Public Security Ordinance was passed in Parliament today with a majority of 110 votes, as 137 were received in favour while 27 were against during the division.
The business news on Gold FM.
The All-Share Price Index of the Colombo Stock Exchange closed at 21,844.54 points after losing 73.06 points today. The S&P SL20 Index also ended at 6,076.18 points following a 14.32 point loss. Turnover totaled 2.9 billion rupees.
International news on Gold FM.
Pakistani capital Islamabad is placed under a strict security lockdown with a 2-day public holiday ahead of US-Iran talks. Pakistan government has taken over Serena Hotel for negotiations, ordering guests to vacate and closing facilities to secure the venue. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said that continuation of strikes on Lebanon would render negotiations meaningless. In a next message, he warns that Iran's hands will remain on the trigger. In the meantime, Iranian delegation for ceasefire talks is expected to arrive in Pakistan today. This is according to the Iranian ambassador to Pakistan. The meeting with the US delegation, including its Vice President J.D. Vance, is scheduled for Saturday in Islamabad. Iranian ambassador Reza Amiri Moghadam shared on X that discussions will center on a 10-point proposal submitted by Iran, though the specific details of these points remain unclear. He noted that the talks proceed despite skepticism from the Iranian public, citing repeated ceasefire violations by the Israeli regime intended to undermine diplomatic efforts.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
Lawyers for Sean Diddy Combs appear before an appeals court today to challenge his conviction and 50-month prison sentence for prostitution charges. The defense attorney argues that the trial judge improperly considered evidence of abuse and threats against former girlfriends, despite a jury acquitting Combs for sex trafficking and racketeering.
Sports news on Gold FM.
Sri Lanka qualified for the final in men's field hockey at the Asian Games Qualifier 2026. This is after a narrow 3-2 win over Indonesia. That's it from the news roundup. Have a good night.